guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia. If you're new here, if you are, I just love to talk about books and I talk about them very badly. I'm horrible at explaining the plot of a book, but I'm very excited and passionate about reading, and if that's interesting to you, I really encourage you to subscribe to my channel and comment down below and tell me your favorite books. Anyway, let's get into all of the books that I read this month. I read 11 books, and 12 is usually like my number of books that I read a month. That's like what I average. But I did read 2 really long books this month, so I'm very proud of myself for getting to 11 because those books were some chunkers. So anyways, I got my Dr. Pepper. If you want to know anything about me, I love me a Dr. Pepper. Let's talk about the books. Okay, so the first book that I read this month is Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. This is the number 3? Yeah, book 3 in the Boys of Tommen series. If you don't know about the Boys of Tommen, I highly encourage you to pick up Binding 13. That is the first book in this series, and that is Shannon and Johnny's story. And if you know anything about Shannon and Johnny's story, you know how heartbreaking it is, but how beautiful it is. And this is basically that story, but told in the perspective of Joey. Joey is the eldest boy in their family, and they have really crappy parents, so he's basically taking care of all of the kids, and there's younger kids involved, and this is kind of like his perspective on the abuse going on in his family, this perspective of him basically having to take care of like Shannon and all the other kids. And then also this is when he meets Aoife, which is his girlfriend. Also these books are set in Ireland in like the 2000s, I believe. So yeah, anyways, this is when he meets Aoife for the first time, and it's kind of just like their love story and also Joey's story. He gets into like hardcore drugs in this story. This is just such a heartbreaking, beautiful, tragic story. I love Joey. He's such a, what would you say, not misunderstood, because he's not misunderstood, but he's such a, just a tragic, beautiful boy, and I just love him so much. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. Of course, every single book in that series has been a 5-star read for me. So yeah, let's get on to the next one. Oh, by the way, this was 614 pages. The next one, which is book 4 in the Boys of Tommen series, is wow, this one was 923 pages. So these were both really big books for me to read this month, so that's why I say I could have done 12, but I read some huge books this month. But anyways, this is book 4. This is Redeeming 6, and basically this is the rest of the story. This is basically like Keeping 13, but told in Joey's perspective. In this book, he and Aoife are just like older. She ends up, well, they're not older, they're still in high school, but she ends up getting pregnant in this book, and that is an insane part of the book, and it's just kind of like Joey's story of redeeming himself. So I also give this one 5 stars. It is so beautiful. I don't understand how Chloe Walsh can write this long of books, but I'll eat them up every single time. I remember going on Goodreads and being like, this was so incredibly long, but honestly I ate it up. I did. I ate it up. I felt fed, and that was just, that was that. I cannot wait for Gibbs's story, which comes out April 14th or something like that. Very freaking soon. I pre-ordered it. I got the UK cover coming in. So excited. All right, the next book that I read in the month of March is Sweet Filthy Boy. My best friend Lakin actually gave me this book because she didn't like it, which I don't get it. This was like a good read. I don't think it was a horrible bad read, like to where I wanted to DNF it, but it was a pretty good read. So I thought it was super fun. But anyways, basically we have our main character. Her name is Mia. And then we also have our MMC. His name is Ansel. But we don't really get his perspective in this book. It's just following the perspective of Mia. And they are in Las Vegas, and they have this super hot one-night stand. and the next morning Ansel proposes that Mia go back with him to France for the summer. And they also got married during their one night stand, so that's like kind of part of it. But she has this like big decision to make. Should she go, should she not go? But she ends up going, and this is kind of just like the story of like them getting to know each other deeper than just like the one night stand. It's kind of awkward at first when she first gets there, but then they kind of like get their groove and they really like each other. I did find this book kind of like bleh in some places because, like I said, it started to get awkward between the both of them. And sorry if you heard that vibrating, my phone is literally right next to the camera. Anyways, it started to get awkward between them, and that just gave it like a little blah moment to the book. But I thought it was a super cute book. For it being written in 2012, I want to say 2014, I thought it still held to the test of time. There's obviously way better like rom-coms to me, or romance books, but for this being written in 2014, I just thought it was really good. This is also by Christina Lauren, which she doesn't write, like, well, they don't write this type of like romance book anymore, which is super spicy, but I found it to be very good. And if they did write something like this in today's time, I think it would be so good. So I liked this. I gave it 3 stars. I would recommend this book, but it wasn't like my favorite book of all time, but I'm definitely happy I read it, and I'm happy to have it like in my arsenal to like recommend to people because this was like a fun time. The next book I read in the month of March, I feel like there is a hair on my hand. I was like, I feel a hair. Anyways, the next book that I read in the month of March is None of This Is True by Lisa Joel. So I actually listened to this on audiobook, which I highly recommend if you do get the chance. Request it from Libby or invest in the audiobook because it was like a movie, you guys. It was such a good listening experience. So basically, this book follows a very popular podcaster named Alex Summers, and also a woman named Josie, who they run into each other for the first time in a restaurant, and they end up being birthday twins. They have the same birthday, they were born in the same place on the same day. After Josie meets Alex, she kind of goes and looks her up, and she realizes that she's a really popular podcaster. And so Josie thinks, I think I have a very interesting story to tell. And basically, Josie ends up having a really strange, very dark life. She's a very troubled person. This book took turns and twists that I just did not expect. I always thought Josie was weird. Like when we were first getting to know her, I'm like, oh, she's a little weird. But it ended up being so insane. It blew my mind. Me listening to it on audio was like 10 times more crazy, I think. And yeah, I highly recommend this book. Honestly, None of This Is True. That's a huge clue to the book if you can put 2 and 2 together. This was such a good book. 5 stars. I love a good thriller. Love a good thriller. And yeah, 5 stars. 5 freaking stars. Okay, moving on. Okay, the next book that I read, I listened to it on Libby, and I don't have a physical copy. This is called A Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is the first in a cozy mystery series, the Hannah Swanson murder mystery series. Basically, this book follows Hannah Swanson. She's like a small town baker. She's got red hair. She's like super funny and outgoing. She's just like super, I loved her. I loved her so much. But anyways, this book follows her, and she is basically trying to solve a murder that happened in her small town. And she's kind of just like running around town, meeting all the quacky people, getting the clues. And she's also working with the police, which I think is super funny because that would just never happen in real life. Well, she's working with one cop, her sister's husband. But yeah, I really loved this. I thought it was super good. I'm not the one to like physically read a cozy mystery, but listening to it while I'm folding laundry or doing the dishes, I found that I really enjoy like a very thoughtless, like cozy book. And that was 100% this book. I give it 4 stars because obviously it wasn't like my favorite book ever, but I definitely will continue on with the next book, which is A Strawberry Shortcake Murder, that I don't think my library has on Libby, so I think that I will have to try to buy it, the audiobook, or just read it physically. But I'm probably gonna get the audiobook because, like I said, I'm not a huge like physical cozy mystery girl, but listening to a thoughtless little book while I'm like cleaning and stuff, very good, love. So I'll probably do that. But yeah, anyways, moving on to one of my favorite reads of the month, which is actually a library book, which I'm gonna go return today because I've been holding on to it way too long. Anyways, this is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Miss Tia Williams. She is the author of 7 Days in June, which is a super popular, super beautiful romance. So basically, this story follows Ricky Wilde. Ricky is kind of like the black sheep of her family. She's very misunderstood. She's got an old soul, which immediately I connected with because I feel like I have an old soul. She loves like thrifting and vintage and antique, and she loves flowers and nature, and just, I don't know, I connected with her so well. But she didn't like get along with her high class family. They like have like a big business in Atlanta. They're all like super rich and like uppity, I guess you could say. And she doesn't really like connect with them at all, which I was like, very, very much me. Not that my family is like big business in Atlanta, but I just sometimes feel like I'm not like my family. So I just was connecting very well with Ricky Wilde. Moral of the story. Anyways, because of that, she kind of just goes off on her own. She meets a lady who has a brownstone in Harlem who she ends up renting to Ricky to open her flower shop out of. And while Ricky is like learning to be a good businesswoman, she's also learning about the town and the magic and the secrets that went on in Harlem. And this book is also following in the point of view of Breeze. It goes back to 1920. He's a pianist who moved from like North or South Carolina to kind of get away from everything that was going on there, because Harlem was owned by only black people back in the 1920s, which I think is super cool. I actually did not know that. But yeah, and so he goes there, he kind of like plays in speakeasies, so we kind of get like his perspective. And then one night Ricky meets a strange man in a garden, and they end up kind of talking, and they're both kind of like enamored with each other, but they're both like, we don't do relationships, so let's just move on. But anyway, this is kind of their love story, and there's like a huge twist between the two of them that I thought was so cool and different, and this was just a 5-star read for me. It was amazing. It was a beautiful romance, and I cannot wait to reread this again, because I will. And I want to own it physically. Alright, the next book that I read for the month is The Woman by Kristen Hanna. I did a video reading my highest rated books on Goodreads and my lowest rated book on Goodreads, and this was the highest. I believe it's sitting at like a 4.7, which is so incredibly high. That is so high. But anyways, this story is about Frankie, and Frankie is a nurse during like the Vietnam War, and this is kind of like her story on going into the war, like basically knowing nothing and just like learning and loving being a nurse and helping those men who are being sent to this like senseless war to like basically lose their lives. So this is her story, but we also get the story of when she gets out of the war and coming home during a time when people hate soldiers and nurses or anyone that had anything to do with the Vietnam War. They think it's disgusting, and they just like don't appreciate the service. But also there's a lot of vets who get out of the war who also are like, why are we fighting this war? And this is kind of like her story of overcoming like trauma from the war, finding her purpose. Also a lot of people don't even believe that she went to war. Not just men, but they don't even believe that she actually went to war. They're like, there's no women in the Vietnam War. So this is kind of the story of the women of the Vietnam War. And anyways, this was an incredible, incredible story. 5 stars for me. I learned so much about the Vietnam War and why it was such a useless, stupid war in my eyes. You may have a different opinion, but yeah, this was a beautiful story. The twists in the story were insane. It was sad, it was tragic, but it was also very, very beautiful. It was 5 stars for me. I didn't think I was a Kristen Hannah girl, but this proved me wrong, and it was so incredibly good. Okay, my next book of the month is Daisy Hates by Miss Jessa Hastings. This is the second book in the Magnolia Park series. I read the first book and I give it like 3 or 4 stars, I believe. It was good, but I just thought it was giving like reality TV. But then I went back and I thought about it and I was like, Jessa Hastings has a way with words. I won't lie. Like, she writes almost poetry-esque to me. So I went back and I think I gave it a 4-star or like a 4.75 on Goodreads. And then I picked this one up because I was like, I kind of miss her writing. So I picked this one up. This one's following Daisy Hates and Christian. And if you don't know anything about the Magnolia Park series, it is basically like Gossip Girl, like a British Gossip Girl. It's basically just like this group of high class London socialites, if you will, in their relationships and their drama. And I know that sounds so crazy, but this is poetry. Like, she just has a way with the words. I'm gonna read you the first line, which I loved, which kind of sucked me in. It says, "No guns at the dinner table. That's my one rule. Call me old-fashioned. I don't know. It's just that I've always said to the boys, I don't care about phones. I don't care if you're texting. I don't care if you're wearing a hat at the table. I just don't want guns while I'm serving them a brisket I slow cooked for 9.5 effing hours." And it hooked me. There's just something about Jessa. She just does it right. So anyways, I gave it 5 stars. I did. I gave it 5 stars, and I will be continuing on with the series. Okay. The next book that I read was another library book. This is A Wager by Mr. David Gran. So this is a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. And I've seen a lot of people on my Goodreads, on TikTok, on BookTube, talking about how good this is, such a good story. So this is a real story, something that actually happened. Mr. Mann did his research. I will give him that. He did his big one. And at first I was reading it and I was very much invested in it. This is kind of like the story of a ship called the Wager, and also some other ships that went out to sea for like months and months at a time to fight the Spanish. And it was kind of like the story of the men living on the ship and how horrible and gross and disgusting and crazy that it was. And it was just an insane story to begin with. I was like, wow, this is so interesting. But then it just got kind of like repetitive and kind of boring to me. And I was like, okay, I get it. You know, I get it. 3 stars. I hate to say it. I know like people love this book and I get it. But also just like 3 stars for me. And I think that's because mostly it was like, when I found out it was like nonfiction-esque, when I started reading it, I was like, it's not told in like a storytelling way. Even though he was trying to tell it in like a storytelling way, which it could be perceived as that to some people. I just felt like I was being read like a lot of facts, and that's when you lose me. Especially when the facts are kind of like the same facts over and over again. I don't know, I'm moving on because I feel like maybe I'm too stupid to read a book like this, and that's sad. Okay. The next book was The Breakup Tour, which was the lowest rated book on that Goodreads video. So this is basically a story about Riley Wynn. She's kind of like a Taylor Swift. She's like so famous. You see her everywhere. And then it's a second chance romance between Riley Wynn and a man that she used to date in college named Max. And I don't really want to go into this a lot because I just didn't like it that much. I did give it 2 stars. I didn't think like the writing was bad, but I just didn't find it like very much interesting. I was kind of bored at points. I feel like this could be marketed to, like, if there was like barely any, I feel like this could be a good YA book. Just take out the parts where it's like a little spicy, if you will. This could be a good book for like 12-year-olds. I'll be very honest. I just felt like, I don't know. It just wasn't my thing. It wasn't my thing, and that's okay, I think. I'm trying to like I'm trying to like tell you exactly how I feel about it, but honestly, what do I feel about this book? I don't know. I just don't feel a thing. I just felt bored. It was a lot of like songwriting, and I got a little bored during that. I guess there wasn't much like dialogue, banter between the two. That's what it was. That's what it was. There wasn't much banter or dialogue. It was just more internal thoughts and like songs, and like, this is just not for me. I like a little dialogue. Okay, that's it. All right, last book of the month, which I'm so happy I ended the month with this book, The Teacher by Miss Frida McFadden. I've read The Coworker and Never Lie by Frida, and they were both like good, but this one was like mind freaking blowing. Okay, so this book is following a girl named Adeline, which I hate because that's my daughter's name. So it was giving me like blah vibes, but anyway, this is following Adeline, and basically she's kind of like bullied at school because the year before she was accused of like sleeping with a teacher. The teacher got fired, but it's a misunderstood story about that. So she's basically being bullied at school. So she's super vulnerable, and there's vulnerable. I said that's so weird. There's this teacher named Mr. Bennett who kind of like takes advantage of that. And I did not expect it to be as crazy as it was. It's also following in the point of view of Mrs. Bennett, which is Mr. Bennett's wife, and kind of like going through their marriage, and she's wary about Addie, and she's wary about her husband. And this book was so absolutely insane. I put on my Goodreads, I was like, absolute insanity. I put on my Goodreads that this was absolute insanity. I'm sorry, it just got really tipsy. Anyways, this was a crazy book. 5 stars from me. I loved it so much. Frida, you can do no wrong. She writes the perfect popcorn thriller. Everybody says it, but it's so true. Let me fix the camera. It's literally so true, and I eat it up every single time. Okay, so that was the 11 books that I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below your favorite books that you read this month, and let me know which book you want to read out of all the ones that I read. I love you like a bestie. If you made it this far, comment the bow emoji, because no. Let's do the tulip emoji because it's spring. Some tulips right there. Anyway, love you guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.